in podcast episode 3 of the Psych fans discussion of season 2. We haven't really discussed season 1 at this point, but the two normal hosts at this point on the Psych fans podcast, Kyle here and someone else.
Well, maybe now that when they finish airing new episodes, now that the DVD's apparently out for the first season, we can go back maybe and look at some of those and do retro podcasts for them, possibly.
Possibly like in the break period time,
yes,
when there's not any episodes, which would be 2 periods of time after the half-season break or summer finale, as they say, and then after the season finale in the wintertime. Ended like late February last year, this current year still. But this is a review of the 3rd episode of the 2nd season. It's known as Psy versus Psy, the blanking on his name now. Lou Diamond Phillips, guest starring along with this actress that I recognized from the Rules of Engagement program. Her name is Bianca Kajlic. And that's actually the 2nd week in a row, sort of, we can note the whole Rules of Engagement thing, because we noted the fact the Juliet Maggie Lawson's character, Maggie Lawson, was the guest star on Rules of Engagement last year, among other things.
Well, I think Bianca's performance on tonight's Psych was actually better than anything about Rules of Engagement whatsoever. The show as a whole.
No denying that. I mean, there might be people that would listen to this or Psych fans that enjoy that program, but we're not going to really elaborate much more on that. But she's good eye candy, but she was reasonable in this part too. I guess in terms of just to sum up my take on this episode, she was good, although the whole premise I kind of foresaw again to an extent. Not exactly how her being involved with the actual criminal, but that kind of plot does seem to happen a lot of times where the person that's closest to the people that are involved in the mystery or just investigation actually is the most likely to end up being the culprit.
Yeah, it was a very Psych twist, like a common Psych twist, to have this sort of, the chicken in the hen house kind of, or the fox in the hen house kind of scenario.
I mean, I think that the writers are trying to find something else to do. What if Sean got challenged? What if he went up against someone who is better than him at his match? I mean, maybe they'll introduce more psychics on further or future episodes.
Well, they did mention, what was his name? The guy who has the program.
John Edward.
Yeah.
And Miss Cleo.
Yeah, I don't think Miss Cleo will be appearing on Psych, but maybe John Edwards at some point could be talked into doing it.
I'm surprised, actually, they haven't made those references at this point. I actually, not that I'm really going to give away all the diversions of what I've put up on the MySpace page, but in terms of the bio, I added a little bit of humor or whatever. I mentioned people I wanted to meet, one being John Edward. I didn't mention Miss Cleo. I may have to add her to the bio.
I wouldn't mind seeing Dionne Warwick guest appear on the show. Remember the Psychic Friends thing? But I again wonder if they could convince her into appearing on the show.
But in terms of this episode, I mean, it had a lot of humor. The only thing I don't understand, I was thinking about Sean's father had this project for the mini bar, the wet bar, whatever it's known as. You don't see him go back to it. Then he just starts to make a upside-down pineapple cake, which isn't upside down, which is a fun joke, but they didn't really resolve the whole thing with the minibar. Maybe they're going to do that like in the next few episodes or something. I don't know.
No, I think they mostly they brought it up just to kind of, again, the shows this whole thing with Sean. There were early episodes where the father tried to get him to fix something or build something, and it just kind of. It's not Sean's thing, obviously. And as for the cake, again, the food subtext is always in every episode of Psych in one way or another. Although usually it's in relation to something relating to Gus.
Yeah, that was the other thing I got. I mean, a few times in this episode with Gus, I kind of sympathized with the situation, but Sean hooks up with the other psychic, the female psychic. I'm blanking on her character's name right now.
Bianca.
Bianca. And that's the actress's name. Lindsay Lycan, which I guess I could add one other little tidbit about the name or the pronunciation of the name Lycan. I can't help but every time they said that, especially more and more throughout the episode, I am familiar with the whole horror genre and werewolves, and the word lycanthrope, and I've heard the word lycan used as kind of a abbreviation of that, sort of, in a word play with some of the different stories in werewolf stories. So every time they use the word lycan, I couldn't avoid thinking of that, but it had nothing to do with it, and it probably had nothing to do with when they created her character's name.
Well, no, because keep in mind, she turned out to be, if I could spoil the ending so much, she turned out to be a wolf in sheep's clothing, so maybe that was
and
perhaps
deceptive.
why they picked the name.
Sometimes the werewolves are known for being deceptive. They hide their identity. They never say, or they don't even know themselves.
Or, although this is filmed quite a ways back, maybe it's meant to make you think of Lindsay Lohan a little bit because they're kind of similar names, Lindsay Lycan, Lindsay Lohan.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know if somebody was thinking.
Maybe
there's
a combination. They came up with that name. I always wondered about that about TV shows. How do they come up with names? Sometimes it's more obvious, like Veronica Mars and Veronica Mars show, Mars and like the Neptune High, Neptune City, all that wordplay and similarity and metaphor. But
yes, maybe the writers were into astronomy or something.
Maybe there is a reason why they chose that name beyond just it being just a random name or something.
Maybe it'll turn out to be one of the writers' ex-high school girlfriends or something, or had a similar name.
There could be multiple reasons. I don't know. The Lindsay Lohan thing as well. Although I would guess when they came up with this name for this, the writing, the Lindsay Lohan news of the recent times wasn't necessarily on the conscience of those the writers.
Yeah, I would say she's since topped herself with the most recent shenanigans. But we're digressing.
Somewhat of a tangent. What I was trying to mention is I felt bad for Gus when Sean hooks up with her, and he's just kind of left in limbo. I mean, it's so weird with Gus. It's hit and miss. Sometimes he's shiny, and the other times he's kind of just part of the background. I mean, his role is as big as, I don't know, that deputy guy in the police office, you know.
Well, no, it was a more typical Gus performance than, say, the first of the 3 episodes, where Gus seemed a little more happy-go-lucky than he normally is. It was more kind of a Gus playing off of Sean kind of performance.
I mean, they did give the whole Gus being the coin expert and Sean making him feel like an idiot about it, but I mean, I wish there would be an episode where it was almost monopolized with the Gus finding facts and almost was a featured episode. That's one of the coolest parts about the show is Gus is like the trivia guy, and I mean, some of us, you know, that are into the geeky kind of stuff really enjoy seeing that on screen.
Well, yeah, I gotta believe at some point they'll probably do kind of a more Gus-centric episode, and also we're now due up to have Gus, like a Gus romantic interest episode.
They did one last season with the planetarium. I would think they'll bring that up again, especially because they're focusing on Sean. Also, the fact Juliet was so obsessed with Lou Diamond Phillips and failed to notice the whole thing with Sean and Lindsay. But you know, I kind of wondered maybe that was the reason why they had Lou Diamond Phillips also, or whatever. We're gonna have to match up. Lou Diamond Phillips we got on the show. We're going to have to match up some love interest for Sean so there's not a jealousy thing.
Also, last season with Gus, the dating, what was it? The dating, I'm forgetting the right word.
Oh, the speed dating episode.
Yeah, we had Gus potentially hooking up with one of Prince's ex-wives, guest appearing on the show.
Yeah, we ran into that or something. It would be nice if they might revisit that plot or that whole scenario, because I thought that the girl that Sean was connecting with, they could have elaborated on her character more. They might. Who knows? Probably the chances are not, but it would be an idea at least if the writers are searching for them.
Actually, the actress, I thought they should have guest appear on the show if they could get her to be Rosario Dawson, because Dule Hill's been on Celebrity Poker Showdown back when that show was on Bravo, and there's one episode where Rosario Dawson was also on there, and they were kind of flirting with each other on the show, so maybe we could extend that into the Psych realm somehow.
So Anything more to elaborate or comment? There's probably things we'll forget about.
Well, one thing is Lou Diamond Phillips played kind of a similar character when he has a recurring character on Numbers, who's in some ways similar to the character he played on Psych, except the character on Numbers had more of a sense of humor, more overtly a sense of humor. Whereas the Psych character was funny, but it wasn't a character who was actually trying to make jokes.
The way it was written, and I don't know, maybe he had some sort of input. His whole his dialogue was all in mode of a character. It wasn't like he was acting normal. It was like a Leslie Nielsen type thing where, like Bond, James Bond. It didn't seem like he was ever talking naturally. It was almost overtly a certain character, personality.
Well, the one thing I noticed, and I mentioned it when we were watching the show, was for devotees of MASH, the Colonel Flagg character on MASH. The Lou Diamond Phillips character tonight was very much like Colonel Flagg on MASH. And in the earlier part of the episode, when Lassiter sort of admired him, Lassiter was being very much like the Frank Burns character on MASH, cozying up to Colonel Flagg.
Actually, when you mentioned that, I couldn't help but just think there's an influence on the Lassiter character to Burns, because he's kind of like, well, he's kind of, with Sean, he can't figure him out and he can't beat him, and Frank Burns can't beat Hawkeye, or Pierce.
There's a similar dynamic between the Lassiters to Sean as Frank is to Hawkeye on MASH kind of thing going on there.
That's a good analogy. I mean, there's other probably characters that have come up that you could also compare them to, but that I never thought about that, and that's a pretty good.
Although unlike MASH, we had Lassiter kind of turn on and become a rival to the Lou Diamond Phillips character. You didn't like him inevitably. Kind of cozying up to him in the earlier part of the episode.
Thing you did point out to me before we started doing this, the fact that Chief was sort of on hand in this episode was different. I don't know if that was the sort of thing they had to do with the whole federal involvement in this situation, in this case. Or they want to get Kristen Nelson more involved. I don't know.
I think it's the second of the two. I think now that she's in the opening credits, they just basically want to get more use out of the character, which I applaud. I mean, it's fun watching the Lassiter character and Jules, and also Sean and Gus kind of react to her pronouncements to the things she does.
Maybe there'll be an episode that's featured on her. The fact she had the baby too, they haven't even shown the baby since.
Yeah, they haven't focused on that at all. I'm wondering if we're going to get back to that again in a future episode.
Maybe she's got a guardian of some kind taking care of it. I don't know. What do you think of the Psych outs?
The Psych out was better this time. This is easily the best Psych out we've had so far of the newer episodes.
Of the other ones, the ones from last season, I think. Although they still haven't done the music, I would think they would. But all the pop culture refs, Pete Rose and Herbie Bellichez, or they made a bunch of Fantasy Island.
Yes, you mentioned about every combination of 70s people he possibly could there in the Psych out. It was great.
I think the Sean character, they're just feeding him these pop culture reference. It's almost like getting cliche. Not that it's bad that he's doing that, but it's almost like you expect it. You don't. Before it was so it'll pop up once in a while. Now, in this episode, when he was talking to her and charming her, and even just with the cops especially, it's going to come out. There'll be one and another 30 seconds, another one, another 10 seconds.
Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe the writers of Psych are fans of the Amy Sherman Palladino approach of Gilmore Girls, where they like to work in the pop culture references.
And Veronica and a few other shows. I think How I Met Your Mother does it some, but Psych.
Which is why I'd like to see Lauren Graham guest appear on Psych and have a dueling pop culture references thing between the two characters.
Psych war actually in the major leagues on NBC. That may be possible. Well, I'm in kind of a difficult situation with this recording anyway, since the length of it probably should be limited, unfortunately or unfortunately. Should mention next week's episode looks decent. There won't be a podcast for a couple of weeks. I'm going to be going out of town to California, where Psych occurs, actually, and where the Comic-Con is taking place. I think
you go to NBC and take the tour and see if they take you on the set of Psych or something.
But we should also mention there's a Psych fan club or something I was reading on the message boards. The podcasts are up. I haven't really received any comments about them, but hopefully more in the future.
Again, if you find us and listen to the podcast, feel free to give us your feedback. Let us know what things you'd like us to talk about more. Give us your thoughts on the show.
we're still figuring it out. I mean, the quality of this, I mean, I need to learn how to speak more into the mic and just the volume levels and editing, and there's a lot of things that need to be improved about it. I can notice myself, but give us a little bit of time, and hope. And like we said, if we do a winter in the break time, we'll be getting more experience doing this. Hopefully that will be the case. But
yes, we're podcast newbies, so bear with us.
We can, and so it'll be a couple of weeks. But the stuff's up. There's a blog set up. The subscription thing I haven't really figured out. I'm not sure I will be at this point. People can just bookmark it, hopefully, in iTunes and stuff. There was something else in terms of related news, wasn't there, or maybe not?
Well, the thing about Dooley Hill fielding questions.
Oh yeah,
they were running that during the episode.
Most people would have seen that, unless it was like we're watching online. You can watch the episodes online. I did notice on the USA Network website. But yeah, he was at least he'll take questions. I don't know if it's like a random thing. It's not like a live chat thing. It's just emails or message boards for Dooley. And I still don't really believe that he is behind the MySpace page for the Gus character, along with Sean, with James Rode doing the Sean Spencer.
Maybe they give some input into it. Somebody else does the heavy lifting and the main work, but maybe they give a little bit of guidance to that
question
person.
Here or there. I did see someone mention on one of the MySpace pages, one of theirs, that Juliet should have one. And, like a lot of TV shows, they have them, like Boston Legal and stuff. They have a lot of, like, MySpace pages for the characters and stuff, and even just actors as a whole.
So there isn't a Maggie Lawson MySpace page?
Well, I'm not saying there isn't. I haven't seen one. I just saw someone mention we need a MySpace page for Juliet, which I don't have no problem with. They could put a lot of pictures up of her. She's
because as much as I
enough.
love Sean and Gus, actually Maggie Lawson is maybe the biggest reason why I watch the show.
Yeah, beyond the writing, but yeah, I mean, she's the biggest visual reasons.
Hey, she's
although the guest stars are good. I mean, the girl that played tonight,
we liked Bianca.
Her last name is not easy to pronounce. I don't know, Kajlich, but
depends on how you pronounce that J. I think that's the key to pronouncing the name.
We'll just call her at this point Bianca.
And Bianca.
They had the girl from How I Met Your Mother last year, the guest star. I'm blanking on. She was the cupcake girl on How I Met Your Mother.
I'm talking about she was Victoria
Williams, Ashley Williams. Although her role she was in the episode, but I don't know if it's to be a recurring character, but she needs to come back because I enjoy everything I've seen with her, which being Psych and How I Met Your Mother, not being a lot, but in terms of just the guest stars, there's definitely not a lack of attractive reasons to.
Well, as for Bianca, Sean could maybe visit her in prison if they want to bring her back on the show.
Yeah, that's true. So,
and
anyway,
Lou Diamond Phillips should definitely come back again because I actually enjoyed the performance.
They probably can. The thing is, they're so early in their stages, they may not. Maybe next year. Maybe by the end of the year, sometime or next year. I don't know if they're gonna. It depends on the actors. Lou Diamond Phillips isn't the busiest actor. Besides, he's been on Numbers, but that's what I've found, that a lot of times with the actors that aren't out of work, they may do a guest appearance, but that's probably limited. But the ones that are looking for work, they'll come back. They have no issue with that. They'll make the time. So,
I'm out of comments for this week's episode.
That's exhausted enough. I mean, we could have gone through quotes. I wish we could come up with my favorite quote from last week, though. I think is the quote where Sean says to Gus, "Doodles are the windows to the soul." Gus, which I could put that as a stamp or something like that as a favorite quote.
Yeah, this week actually the thing about the wet bar comment, the Reggie Jackson, Diane Cannon thing, I think was the outstanding comment of the episode for me.
I actually think his dad, Sean's dad, Corbin Burnson, has been as good, if not better, this season than he was last season.
Yeah, they're making better use of Corbin Burnson, and I loved L.A. Law as a kid, so I total thumbs up on that.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time before they start making L.A. Law and Major League references, just like they did the John Edward this week.
Well, also, you wonder if this opens the door to having maybe Harry Hamlin and Lisa Rinna make a guest appearance on Psych, which I wouldn't mind that at all because I like watching them. They were great on Veronica Mars. I'd love to see them
We
on
can get in
Psych.
touch with some of the people involved with the show. We could get more insights on how the guest appearances work on this kind of stuff. But one thing at a time, baby steps. Maybe a year from now we'll be actually talking to that person.
I
We
can't
can use
complain
Skype or
so far,
something.
though. The first 3 episodes of this mini season, they've had great guest appearances, and hopefully that will continue.
Well, that happens a lot of times. And there is no sweeps, per se, for summer shows, really. There's the finale, but that's basically it. Otherwise, it's a shortened season, so you try to make the most of each episode.
And so far, they've been consistently good guest appearances, and like I said, hopefully that will continue.
Anyway, well, let's say hello to the Indians again, the friendly Indians.
They need to come here and do a concert. Those guys need to tour.
And that is going to be wrap it up for this week. Hopefully the podcast has been improved week to week, but thanks for listening, tuning in, streaming, doing what you do. A couple weeks, should be able to do at least one more.
Stay
Thanks for tuning
tuned
in.
and stay psyched.
And stay psych. Rely on your psych.